Hey everyone, welcome to Daily News Analysis. Let's look at some of the important news on January 18th. The first news is regarding euthanasia. I am assuming everybody knows what a euthanasia is. So suppose you are terminally ill, you are very ill that there is no chance of your recovery. So you can terminate your life medically. So there are two types of euthanasia. It can be active euthanasia or passive euthanasia. Under active euthanasia, say for example, a doctor will give you an injection that will terminate your life. Or there can be a passive euthanasia where we are not actively killing you. However, we are removing the life support system. So suppose if a patient is on ventilator, we remove the ventilator so he dies of its own. So this is the concept of euthanasia when your situation is such that there is no chance of getting back to your proper health and you are living a miserable life in a deathbed, and you're in a vegetative state, you are in coma for years, there are medical bills piling up and there is no hope of recovery. So under those situations there can be a medical termination of your life per se. So Supreme Court has questioned the utility of advanced medical directive because in India, as per a 2018 judgment, passive euthanasia is permitted. However, the process for that is very cumbersome. Active euthanasia is not allowed in India, but passive euthanasia is permitted, but the process is very cumbersome. And one of the passages regarding the living will or the medical directive. What is the utility of the advanced medical directive? That is under question in the Supreme Court. The bench queried when such a directive should be implemented. There were cases when the mind has overridden the limitations of the body and comatose persons had returned to normalcy. There have been situations where the person, you will think that this person will not be able to live, but he gets better and he comes back to normalcy. So what about those cases? The court pointed to the case of renowned physicist Stephen Hawkins, who, despite a daunting diagnosis of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, lived till 76 years of age. So, does a coma always precede a full stop, that is death? Does a coma, a comatose condition, always lead to death? So, these are some of the questions that the court is asking. So, what is the utility of an advanced medical directive? That is the Supreme Court asking. Justice Rishikesh Roy asked who would decide whether an illness was critical or terminal. The financial background of people in many cases had decided whether a person's illness was critical or terminal. So, who is to say? How do we decide that this person is in critical condition, is in terminal condition, cannot be recovered? So, passive euthanasia can be allowed in this case. Who will decide that? Usually, it's only because a person does not have money for the treatment. Then they decide that it's better that he goes. So, who will decide that? That is also one question that has been raised. Justice Ajay Rastogi said, advanced directives placed a heavy burden on doctors. It is they who had to ultimately say when a patient had gone beyond the point of return. So this advanced medical directive has placed a very heavy burden on the doctors. They are responsible. They have to give the declaration that now the patient cannot recover. Patient has gone beyond the point of return. So that's a very heavy burden. Justice Joseph said directives operated in a very narrow realm. When a person was in a vegetative state and unable to tell the doctors to stop the treatment. Otherwise, a person has the right to say, I don't want treatment. In rural areas, many people don't even go to hospitals. So, advanced medical directive is you tell that in advance that if this happens to me, you have the right for the to terminate my life, to go for passive euthanasia. So that is one thing. Additional Solicitor General K.M. Nataraj said a directive could be given for a specific illness in a specific situation. The court said it focuses on three aspects of an advanced directive: its contents, the method in which such a directive should be recorded without the danger of tampering, and its implementation. The court said whatever it may do would only be stopgap until the legislatures came up with the law. Finnish collection of states' view on identifying minorities, Supreme Court has told Center. So the center's position in the Supreme Court remained uncertain on whether its 1993 notification identifying Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Parsis as minority committees needed reconsideration in light of a view by the National Commission for Minorities that religious and linguistic minority communities ought to be identified state-wise. So should the minority committees be identified state-wise? Should it be identified center-wise? Should the status quo be maintained? There is this debate going on. So center has told to finish the collection of this data. Center has told the given the ultimatum to the center. So instead, it sought so the center has sought time to gather the views of 4 states and 2 union territories which have remained silent on the question. Currently, 24 states and union territories have given a mixed response, some leaving the task of identifying minorities to the center or preferring status quo, while others, including BJP ruled Assam and Uttarakhand, and states such as West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, maintaining that minorities should be identified at the state level. Andhra Pradesh moved Supreme Court to get nod for ban on public rallies. So there is this GO. If High Court stay on GO is not vacated, it may lead to recurrence of incidents such as recent stampede in Nellore district. Meetings also imposed a ban on burden on public infrastructure. The state has told the Supreme Court. So the Andhra Pradesh government has filed a special leave petition in the Supreme Court, and it is challenging the suspension of a GO by the state high court. It said that if the stay on the operation of GA was not vacated, political rallies, road shows, processions, and large-scale meetings would be held without any regulatory oversight. It may lead to the recurrence of incidents such as the recent stampede at the Kundukur in Nellore district, in which 8 people died. In a landmark shift, China's population declines in 2022. So it has happened only after the last time it happened was back in 1961. There was a famine. Now it is the first time after that where the China's population has declined. So India will overtake China as world's most uh, populous nation in this year. The number of births in China was 9.56 million and more than 10% drop from 2021. The number of deaths was 10.41 million. So China's population declined by 8,50,000 in 2022, and it is the first such fall since the nationwide famine in 1961, marking a landmark demographic shift for the world's second largest economy. So India will be number one now as far as population is concerned. United Nations Security Council Sanctions Committee blacklists Lashkar's Makki after Beijing lift its hold. Now, who is Makki? Who is Lashkar's Makki? Abdul Rahman Makki, he was born in Bahawalpur in Punjab, in the province of Pakistan, and he is the deputy chief of Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jamaat-ud-Dawa, and he is the head of the political affairs wing of Jamaat-ud-Dawa Lashkar-e-Taiba. He has also served as head of Lashkar-e-Taiba's Foreign Relations Department and a member of Shura. He is the brother-in-law of Jamaat-ud-Dawa Lashkar-e-Taiba Chief Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. So United Nations Security Council has blacklisted this. So the ISIL and Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee of United Nations Security Council has placed Abdul Rahman Makki, a fundraiser and key planner of the Pakistan-based terrorist outfit Lashkar-e-Taiba, on its sanctions list. The move was made possible after China withdrew the technical hold that it had imposed last June when the US and India, then a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, tried unsuccessfully to get Makki on the global terror blacklist. Beijing has now argued that the blacklisting is in fact a recognition of Pakistan's record of fighting terrorism. Pakistan Prime Minister moves serious and sincere talks with Modi. So the Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he says that we want to elevate poverty, we want to achieve prosperity, we want to provide education, health facilities, employment to our people, and not waste our resources on bombs and ammunitions. That is the message he wants to give to the Prime Minister Modi. So Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has called for serious and sincere talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on burning points like Kashmir. So he said all this in an interview. My message to the Indian leadership and Prime Minister Modi is that let's sit at the table and have serious and sincere talks to resolve our burning points like Kashmir. It is up to us to live peacefully and progress or quarrel with each other and waste time and resources. Later, the Pakistan Prime Minister's office, in a series of tweets, clarified that Mr. Sharif had made it clear that talks with India would be possible only after New Delhi reversed the revocation of Article 370 that granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir. So they are saying that India has usurped whatever semblance of autonomy was given to Kashmiris in their constitution Article 370. They revoked that in August 2019, and minorities over there are grossly mishandled. This must stop so that a message can go around the globe that India is ready to have talks, and we are more than ready, says Shehbaz Sharif. India-Russia begin manufacturing of AK-207 assault rifles in UP's Amethi. So the joint venture between India and Russia, Indo-Russian Rifles Private Limited, they have started producing AK-203 Kalashnikov assault rifles at Korwa in Uttar Pradesh, and this Korwa Ordnance Factory in Amethi has produced the first batch of 7.62 mm Kalashnikov AK-2003 assault rifles. The beginning of deliveries to the Indian Army is expected soon. Vietnam president has resigned. There were major anti-corruption charges, a major anti-corruption purge. So the Vietnam president, Nguyen Xuan Phuc, has resigned after days of rumors he was about to be sacked as part of an anti-corruption drive that has seen several ministers fired. The Communist Party held him responsible for wrongdoings by ministers during his 2016-2021 stint as Prime Minister before he became the President, and now he has resigned as a President. Fiji military has warned of concern over new Prime Minister's reforms. So Fiji's military chief warned that reforms under the new Prime Minister, Sitiveni Rabuka, could violate the constitution, but also pledged to respect the law and stand with democracy. As you should know that Fiji has been shaken by 4 coups in the past 35 years, and the possibility of military intervention loomed over a tight general election last month. These were some important news for January 18. Let's quickly see the highlights. The first news was regarding euthanasia. Supreme Court is questioning the utility of Advanced Medical Directive. Supreme Court also telling the center to finish collection of states' views on identifying minorities. Andhra Pradesh has moved Supreme Court to get nod for ban on public rallies. In a landmark shift, China's population declines in 2022. UNSC Sanctions Committee blacklists Lashkar's Makki after Beijing lifts its hold. Pakistan Prime Minister moves serious and sincere talks with Modi. India-Russia begins manufacturing of AK-203 assault rifles in UP's Amethi. Vietnam President resigns amid major anti-corruption purge, and Fiji military warns of concern over new Prime Minister's reforms. That's all for right now. Thank you so much. See you in the next session with more set of news. Goodbye.